is solving rational equations. So this is kind of a cross with adding and subtracting with some of the other things that we have done before. Okay, so anyway, so we're solving rational equations today. And so the big thing to look for is a common denominator. But if it's something this simple, like number 1, you should already know how to solve this. So we're just going to cross multiply, which is called the means extremes product theorem. So we can just do 7r minus 5, and then 6 parentheses r plus 2. So right, we're going to just go back to some of the things that we did back in algebra and geometry and now in trig. And so it's kind of the same thing. And so we're going to multiply that out. So we're going to get 7r minus 35 equals 6r plus 12. Kind of, it gets harder, but this is kind of our basic. And then we're going to get rid of the 6r both sides. So I'm going to have r minus 35 equals 12. And then add 35 both sides. And so I get 47. And that's my answer. So this one isn't, this is just like a regular, almost it's proportion, because you have one fraction equals another fraction. And so there's a couple of thoughts to doing these next problems. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways, and then you can kind of see like what way maybe makes more sense for you. So what we're doing with this one, now this looks a little bit more complicated than what we were talking about before. Okay? So one method. So I'm going to show you 2 methods. The first method is kind of utilizing what I just showed you in problem number 1. And then the second method is more how I like to do it. Okay? But figure out which method makes more sense for you. So for this first one, what I can do with this one is I look for a common denominator. Because remember, we're adding. And remember, we learned in adding and subtracting that we need a common denominator. So I'm not going to look at this in method 1. So in method 1, I'm just going to look at these 2. Okay? This would be my common denominator. So 28 z plus 2. All right? Then we look up, the 9 is going to stay in the numerator. And then we got to think, what did I multiply the denominator by that now I need to multiply the numerator by? We need the z plus 2. Because that wasn't there before, and now it is. So I need to multiply the top by that. And then for the second one, we have the z plus 2. We have a 3. Think about what did you need to multiply it by? 28. So we multiplied a bottom by a 28, so we need to multiply the numerator by 28. And then for right now, we're going to leave the 3/4 alone. Okay? So next, we're going to have to kind of distribute out our lovely fraction here. So we're going to have 9z plus 18. And since this is plus, I can just do 3 times 28. So 3 times 28, and so that's going to give me 84. And then now what I can do is clean up my numerator a little bit. And then set it equal now to the 3/4. Now do you know what we're going to do? We're going to cross multiply. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 times 9z plus 102. And then I'm going to do 3 times the 28 times the z plus 2. Well, we can get rid of that 3 times 28, and we can combine that. So again, that 3 times 28 was 84. And then just distribute. So we're going to have 36z plus 408 equals 84z, and then 84 times 2, which is 168. And then subtract the 36z both sides. And then that becomes 48z, and then I keep the 168. Subtract the 168 both sides. And so we're going to need end up with? $330 sound right? Have to double check. I hate working with negatives. Should be 240. Yeah, I put it in double. And then divide by 48. Should go in there 5 times. Okay? This is one way to do it. This is not the way that I do it, but this is one way. Why didn't I? Because I was just going to keep 3/4 as it is, and then just cross multiply, kind of like with the first technique. So that's method 1. Okay? Okay, can I show you another method? Yeah, you want to see this other method. All right, then copy down this method. So the next method, the second method is actually doing what we did here, that we can actually kind of keep that thought here, except, well, actually, why don't we just, yeah, we have this with method 1, but then I don't know if we should switch to another problem to show you method 2, or I can just do this again. Okay, so with method 2, what I would do is this. What I would look at is, look at the 3/4. Let's say that needs the common denominator too. So would the 28z plus 2 work for the denominator? Even though this is a 4. Does 4 go into 28? Yes. So I'm going to keep my common denominator. It was fine. So if I do that, think about, we have the 3 up here. So what am I multiplying it by to make that z plus 28z plus 2? So I'm going to need, yes, we have 4. Now I've got 28. So now I need a 7, because 4 times 7 is 28, and I need a z plus 2. And so what's kind of cool is what happens when you add fractions with the denominator? So what if I do like 3/4 plus 1/4? What happens to the denominator? Nothing. It stays the same. So the second way says, don't worry about the denominator. Who wants to do that much work? Forget it. So 9z plus 2 plus the same thing we had before, 84, is equal to 21z plus 2. Everybody okay where the 21 came from? 3 times 7? And then just distribute. Okay, put together like terms, so we're back with that being 102 again. Subtract my 9z. Yep. And then subtract 42 both sides. So we'll get 12z equals 60, and z equals 5. So we get the same answer? Which method makes more sense? None. Okay. I like the second method because I don't like to necessarily have to cross multiply. To me, that's more work. Yes? The 7 came from, what did we multiply 4 by to make 28? 7. And then because I multiplied the bottom by a z plus 2, I need to multiply the numerator by a z plus 2. So that's where the 7 came from. So any thoughts on particular methods that we like? No, we've got a few more examples to go through yet. Yeah, we do. Okay, so we're going to take a look at number 3. Well, we go back and listen to this, help you out. Okay, so for this one, for number 3, depends on what kind of style you'd like to do. I like doing it method 2 because I'm not a big fan of always having to cross multiply because it's annoying. So first take a look at it. I want to do all three pieces. What would be our common denominator?
7 parentheses x minus 4.
Nope, because we're going to do it the other way.
7x minus.
So I need to do something with the 7 and the 8. 56. And then you're right about having the x minus 4. That's correct. Well, because if we were doing method 1, you would be right. But that's not one of my favorite methods to do. I prefer just to do it this way and have all three set up because it's easier. So we think 7 times what makes 56? So there's already a 6 up here, so now I need an 8. And I multiplied the bottom by an x minus 4, so I need to multiply the top by an x minus 4. And in the second fraction, I have a 3. Now what am I going to multiply that by to make this fraction? So this is already there, the x minus 4, but now I have a 56, so I got to multiply that by 56.
Try to find something that multiplies to 56 that has times 3 or whatever.
This, we're just thinking of this fraction, x minus 4. What would I multiply it by to make 56 x minus 4 to the 56? And then this one originally has a 7. Now, 8 times what makes 56? 7. And because I multiplied the bottom with an x minus 4, I need an x minus 4 in the numerator, because you're turning this denominator into this denominator. Now that all the denominators match, the denominators can go bye-bye. So they're gone. So 6 times 8 is what?
46.
Try again. 48. Minus, then I'm going to multiply these.
68.
And then multiply these.
49.
And then the denominator doesn't need to be there, because you've got a common denominator, so we're just worried about the numerators being equal, because in a fraction, the denominators, nothing happens to them anyway. And so then we're just going to distribute, so we're going to have 48x minus 192 minus 168, and then we're going to have 49x minus 196, because that'd be 49 times 4. Put together these two. So we're going to have 48x minus 360 equals 49x minus 196. I can subtract the 48x both sides, so I'll get negative 360 equals x minus, yep, so we're going to add 196 both sides.
76.
That's like taking, what I would do is take off 200 and then add 4 back on.
64.
So negative 164.
X equals negative 164.
So I like doing it that way, because then I don't have to cross multiply. Okay. So there's that particular method. Then I think we have one more. And then tomorrow we're going to be doing applications, which means story problems. Okay, so this is my last one. What if my last fraction doesn't have a denominator?
6.
So like here, 2 doesn't have a denominator.
1.
So we're going to put it over 1 and then go along our merry way. So what would be the common denominator of all three pieces? 6. So the second fraction, nothing happens to it. So the first fraction is a 3. What are we multiplying that 2y by?
4.
Right, 3 times 2 is 6, so this is going to become 2 times 2y. And then on this side, if this is going to become 6, so 1 times 6 is 6, so 2 times 6 would be 12. And then now I can put this together. This is 4y when we multiply. Be careful with this minus side, because that minus is going to hit both the y and the plus 3. So then you're going to run your sign through. And then subtract your like terms here. and then add 3, and divide by 3.
Y equals 5.
Wait, easy peasy? Okay. So, worksheet.